My name is Rajad, the forgotten chronicler, and today I'm going to shell you a tale that has walked many roads in Tamriel, traveler. But the roads that history tries to erase, those are always the most interesting, are they not? The Empire writes its books with golden ink to tell the stories of its marble heroes, but Rajad, this one prefers the truth, even if it is stained with blood and buried in the sand. Come, sit. Let this old Khajiit tell you of Nethys Varen, a Dunmer fish-gutter who did what even the mightiest warriors could not. She stood before Vivec in his own palace, called him a false god to his face, and walked out with her whiskers still attached, yes? But here is the sugar on the sweet roll, traveler. Vivec couldn't kill her, and the reason why? It would make even the moons themselves laugh at the irony.
The year was 2E882. Morrowind gleamed like a jewel in the Tribunal's crown, or so the temple priests would have you believe. In the fishing village of Gnar Mok, a place so small even the fleas had fleas, Nethys Varen gutted mud crabs for a living. Her hands, they reeked of brine and decay, the kind of smell that clings to you like a desperate merchant, yes? Her back was bent like a moon sugar addict's conscience from 14-hour days over tide pools. She owned nothing but moth-eaten clothes and a rusted knife her grandmother had left her.
But Nethys, she had something more dangerous than any blade, traveler. She could read. Not just the modern Dunmeris that the temple approves, no. She could read the old Chimera script, the kind that makes ordinators nervous and moth priests jealous. Her grandmother, wise woman that one, had taught her before the temple's ordinators decided she knew too much and introduced her to their special kind of fire. The permanent kind, yes? Now, every story needs its grain of sand that starts the landslide. For Nethys, it was her younger brother, Draven. The poor kid fell ill with Corprus. You know this disease, traveler? It twists the flesh like a cruel god's joke, makes the mind dance between clarity and madness like a skooma-drunk acrobat. The temple healers, those paragons of mercy, they turn them away faster than a Whiterun guard spotting a Khajiit caravan. The warrior poet has decreed, they said with their practiced piety, that Corpus is divine punishment. To heal it would defy Lord Vivec's will. Divine will. Ha! This one has hairballs with more divinity. Nethys watched her brother's skin bubble and split. Have you ever seen Kwama eggs left too long in the sun, traveler? Like that, but screaming. The sweet stench of rot filled their hovel. In his clear moments, Draven would beg for death with the desperation of a merchant who's lost his last septim to bandits. And in that moment, Nethys remembered her grandmother's last words, whispered like contraband being passed between thieves. The three are not gods, child, they're thieves. And every thief, Rahed knows this very well, always leaves something behind at the scene of their crime. So, our fish gutter had a choice, yes? Watch her brother rot away like yesterday's catch, accepting the will of the so-called living gods, or seek the forbidden truth her grandmother had hidden. A truth that could save Draven, but would make her the enemy of beings who could turn her into ash before she could say moon sugar. What would you choose, traveler? The safe path of suffering or the dangerous road of truth? In her desperation, with her brother's screams clawing at her ears like angry Alfik, she chose heresy. Smart girl.
Beneath Gnar Mok, and everything interesting is always beneath something else, yes? Nethys found her grandmother's hidden texts, wrapped in waxed netch leather, preserved like stolen goods waiting for the heat to die down. The first scroll she opened released the smell of centuries. You know this smell, traveler. It is dust, old magic, and fear. The fear of those who wrote words they knew could get them killed. These were the testimonies of Khmer priests who witnessed the Battle of Red Mountain, the ones who saw what really happened when 3 trusted advisors became 3 living gods. Rahjad has read many lies in his time, but these words, they had the stink of truth. The first impossible truth would make you laugh if it wasn't so tragic. The Tribunal's divinity was not taken, it was borrowed, like a merchant who rents silk robes to look wealthy at market, yes? The heart of Lorcan was their cosmic creditor, and without regular payments at Red Mountain, their godhood would dissolve like sugar in the rain. But the real treasure, traveler, written in what looked suspiciously like dried blood, was this: the ritual of sundering. One may sever a false god from their stolen power, but only if one possesses 3 things: their true name from before ascension, a fragment of their mortal flesh, and the will to speak truth in the place of their greatest lie. 3 impossible things, like asking a Khajiit to give up moon sugar, pass up a warm coin purse, and tell the truth to a guard all at once, yes? Vivec's true name from before he played at godhood, his mortal flesh, as if gods keep such things lying around like old sandals, yes? And his greatest lie? Well, that would be the murder of Lord Indoril Nerevar, committed in the very throne room where Vivec now held court. The gods, it seems, have a sense of dramatic irony that would make even a Khajiit playwright jealous. For weeks, our clever Nethys hunted these impossibilities like a hungry cat stalks moonrats. She infiltrated the temple canton vaults. Those ordinators clinked through the darkness like walking dinner bells, but dinner bells that would gut you faster than you could say warm suns. The copper taste of fear was constant in her mouth. This one knows that taste well, traveler. It never gets better. She found Vivec's birth name in a document the temple thought destroyed. Census records are boring, yes, but sometimes boring things hold the best secrets. Vec, he was called, a prostitute from Mournhold's back alleys. The temple paints him as divinely conceived, but the truth, he was as common as fleas on a dog, just another mortal trying to survive in a hard world. Almost makes you sympathize with the lying godling, no? But the second component, traveler, this is where the story grows teeth. In the deepest vault, behind locks that would make the Thieves' Guild weep with envy, she found a container of black glass. Inside, a withered finger, severed at the knuckle, floating in ember fluid that glowed with the sickly light of stolen divinity. You see the irony, yes? Vivec had cut off his own finger as part of the original ritual. A down payment on godhood, you might say. The temple kept it as a holy relic, never knowing it was evidence of the crime. Like a murderer keeping the bloody knife as a trophy. These gods, they are not as clever as they think. But stealing from gods is like stealing from the Thieves' Guild. They notice and they hold grudges. The ordinators were hunting her now, their prayers to Vivec echoing through the cantons like threats wrapped in honey. They burned her hovel. Not much of a loss, Rajat thinks. They arrested anyone who had sneezed in her direction. And her brother? They dragged poor rotting Driven to the Ministry of Truth. You know this place, traveler? Vivec's floating prison. It hangs in the air through pure divine arrogance. They were using him as bait. Clever, but cruel. Very much Vivec style. Picture this, Nethys standing knee-deep in sewer water that smelled like a weak dead guar marinated in sour milk, while above her, thousands celebrated Vivec's feast day, their songs of praise mixing with drums, the sound of sheep celebrating their shepherd, not knowing he's already sharpening the knife. She had everything for the ritual of sundering, except one tiny impossible thing. She had to perform it in Vivec's throne room, right where he murdered Nerevar. It was like asking to pickpocket Nocturnal herself. Technically possible, but you'd have to be either brilliant or insane. Rajad suspects our Nethys was a bit of both. But here, traveler, is where the sugar turns to salt. As Nethys climbed to the palace, hidden among the pilgrims like a shadow among shadows, she saw something through a crack in the wall. Something that would have sent lesser mortals running back to their mud crab gutting lives. Vivec, alone in his chamber, looking into a mirror. And his reflection, it flickered like a cheap illusion spell cast by a drunk mage. For just one heartbeat, she saw not the golden god king, but something else. A withered thing, ancient and crumbling, held together by will and stolen power, like a diseased skeever wrapped in silk. The divinity wasn't just borrowed, traveler, it was poisoning him. Each day, maintaining the lie of godhood, consumed more of what had once been mortal. Like moon sugar, yes? Sweet at first, but it hollows you out until nothing remains but the craving. And the Corprus, the disease that was eating her brother alive, it was connected to the heart itself, a symptom of the Tribunal's theft leaking into the world like pus from an infected wound. To cure it would be to admit their divinity was a festering lie. Now she understood. Vivec couldn't cure the disease. Not wouldn't, couldn't. The mighty warrior poet, defeater of demons, was as helpless as a kitten in a rainstorm. Oh, the moons must have left that day.
The throne room of Vivec. Have you ever seen it, traveler? It is like a fever dream designed by a mad architect who'd been sampling the merchandise, if you understand Rajad's meaning. Stairs that go up, but also down. Water flowing upward because gravity is apparently optional when you're a god. The ceiling showed the night sky from when Nerever died, frozen in time like guilt preserved in ember. Hundreds of petitioners filled the chamber, each wanting something from their living god. The smell of incense for their losing battle against the stench of desperation and fear sweat. Like a market where everyone is selling their problems and no one is buying, yes? Vivec himself floated above his throne, always the show-off, that one. Split perfectly down the middle, golden Chimera on one side, ash-grey Dunmer on the other. A living monument to transformation, or, as Rajad prefers to call it, a walking identity crisis. His eyes were closed, but you could feel him watching everything. Gods are like that, traveler, terrible at minding their own business. When Nethys' turn came, she approached without prostrating herself. Bold, stupid. Sometimes they are the same thing, no? Lord Vivec, she said, voice steady as a rock. I come seeking truth about divinity. His eyes opened, one red, one blue, both infinite, both full of the kind of patience that comes from knowing you can kill everyone in the room without breaking a sweat. Truth is what I make it, child. Speak your petition and be gone. And then, traveler, oh, this is the moment that makes the whole tale worth telling. Our mud crab gutter pulled back her hood. The recognition in Vivec's ancient eyes was delicious, like watching a merchant realize he's been sold glass instead of diamonds. The ordinators reached for their weapons, but Vivec raised one finger. Wait, it said, let's see where this goes. I petition you, Vec of Mornhold, she said, using his mortal name like a slap across divine cheeks. The temperature dropped faster than a Khajiit's reputation in a Nordic jail. The crowd gasped. You know how crowds love to gasp, traveler. But Vivec, he smiled. The kind of smile that makes wise people check their coin purses and foolish people check their wills. The old laws died with the old gods, little mud crab gutter. You have no standing here. I have this. She pulled out the black glass container. The moment Vivec saw his own severed finger, his skier, Mutra, burst into flame. Compensation issues, perhaps? His divine form flickered like a candle in a storm. your mortal flesh, your anchor to what you were before you became a thief of divinity. Ordinators! Vivec's voice could have shattered glass, but our clever Nethys had already begun the ritual. She crushed the container, dramatic, yes, but effective, and spoke words older than the Tribunal's lies. By flesh once mortal, by name once true, by lie once spoken in this very room, I call you to account, false god, I invoke sundering. What happened next, traveler? Picture a silk tapestry being unraveled by an angry cat, if the tapestry was a god, and the cat was the universe wanting its stolen power back. Vivec's divine form began to peel away like old paint. Underneath was not the withered thing Nethys had glimpsed, but something worse, raw divinity trying to escape back to its source, screaming like a merchant being audited by the imperial tax collectors. The great Vivec fell from the air and hit the floor, with all the grace of a drunk Nord falling off a mammoth. His spear clattered away. The ordinators froze. What do you do when your god is writhing on the ground like a worm in salt? You know nothing, Vivec roared, his voice cycling through ages like a Dunmer machine breaking down. You are dying, Nethys interrupted, stepping closer even as divine energy lashed at her, leaving burns that smelled like lightning and regret. How many years before nothing of Vec remains? 10, 5, next Morndes.
Vivec managed to stand, no longer floating. Gravity, it seems, is very democratic when divinity fails. He looked almost mortal, tired, like a merchant who's been selling the same lies so long he's started to believe them himself. And what would you have me do, girl? Abandon Morrowind? Let the people discover their gods are merely thieves? Watch civilization collapse? Heal my brother. Admit Corprus is not divine punishment, but divine failure. That's all I want. The silence was so complete you could have heard a coin drop in elsewhere. Vivec studied her, and Rajad swears by his tale there was respect in those mismatched eyes. You could have demanded anything, gold, power, my death, but you want only your brother's life. I'm not a thief, she said, unlike you. Vivec laughed. Have you ever heard glass being put back together, traveler? Like that, but wronger. Clever little mud crab. You learned the sundering ritual, yes, but did you learn its price? The energy has to go somewhere, if not into me. The divinity that had been fleeing Vivec suddenly reversed, slamming into Nethys like a river of knowledge that forgot to knock first. She screamed as power not meant for mortal frames flooded through her. Her eyes blazed with stolen light. Her skin cracked, revealing golden fire beneath, like those overpriced Dunmer lamps, but with more screaming. This is the truth you sought, Vivec said, solidifying as she absorbed his excess divinity. Godhood is not a gift, it's a curse. Every moment I feel myself dissolving. You wanted to sunder me from divinity? Congratulations! Now you carry a piece. Let's see how long your mortal frame lasts. But our Nethys, stubborn as a merchant trying to sell water in the rain, she forced that divine fire down, contained it like swallowing molten moon sugar. For her brother. Always for her brother. The bargain, she gasped. Heal my brother. Vivec watched her struggle with something almost like emotion. You are stronger than I expected. Very well. Your brother's corpus will be healed, but you will carry that fragment of divinity until it burns you hollow. Perhaps a year. This is your victory, Nethys Varen. Savor it like expensive wine, for it will be brief. With a gesture, somewhere in the ministry of truth, Draven's flesh began to heal. The corpus retreated like a thief hearing guard whistles. Her brother would live. The price? Only everything she was. Now go, Vivec commanded, rising again because gods cannot resist being dramatic. Tell no one. The ordinators will not pursue you. You've earned that much. But know this, you've changed nothing. The tribunal must endure. The alternative is chaos. Nethys stood, divine fire still dancing beneath her skin like fireflies made of pain. Everything ends, Vech. Even false gods, especially false gods. Even this conversation. She walked out. No one stopped her. The ordinators parted like courtiers avoiding a scandal. They could smell what she carried, a fragment of their god's own power, burning her from within like the universe's worst case of heartburn.
This one found Nethys Varen's journal, traveler, in a hidden cave near Gnar Mok, 300 years later, but who's counting? Her body lay beside it, perfectly preserved. Divinity doesn't believe in decay, apparently. Too proud to rot like honest folk. She had lived 11 months after tweaking Vivec's divine whiskers. And what did she do with her stolen godhood? Did she build temples, demand worship? No. She traveled Morrowind healing Corprus victims, hundreds of them, moving in shadows like a proper sneak thief, undoing what the tribunal couldn't or wouldn't heal. Her brother, Draven, he lived to be old and creaky, had kittens, children, who had children of their own. His line continues, though they think great-great-grandmother Nethys died of swamp fever. If only they knew, yes? In her final entry, written as divine fire finally consumed the last of her mortality, Nethys wrote, "I thought I was exposing Vivec's weakness, but now I understand he let me perform the sundering. He wanted someone to know the burden. He's not just a false god. He's a prisoner, watching himself disappear piece by piece into the cosmic dream. I hated him for letting Draven suffer. Now, carrying just a fragment of his curse, I almost pity him. Almost. But here's what I learned. The gods need us more than we need them. Our belief, our fear, it's what keeps them stable. We're not their worshippers. We're their anchors, their leashes. And one day, when the people stop believing, the tribunal will face what I face now, dissolution or oblivion. I wonder which Vivec will choose. Tell my brother I loved him. Tell him it was worth every burning moment. Nethys Varen, the mud crab who defied a god."
And so, traveler, another name erased from history's ledger, another truth buried deeper than Dunmer ruins. The temple claims Vivec sometimes healed Corpus victims out of divine compassion. Compassion, as if gods know such things. They never mention the fish gutter who grabbed him by his divine tail and made him do it. But here's the sugar on this bittersweet roll. Rajad found one last thing in that cave, carved into the stone in Vivec's own hand the day after Nethys died. She was right. Everything ends, even us, especially us. May she find the peace we never could. Vec. You see, traveler, even gods can learn, though it takes a mortal with nothing to lose to teach them. The temple claims the Vec sometimes healed Corpus victims out of divine compassion. Compassion, as if gods know such things. They never mention the fish gutter who grabbed him by his divine tail and made him do it. But here's the sugar on this bittersweet roll. Rajad found one last thing in that cave, carved into the stone in Vivec's own hand the day after Nethys died. She was right. Everything ends, even us, especially us. May she find the peace we never could. Vec. You see, traveler, even gods can learn, though it takes a mortal with nothing to lose to teach them.
The temple built their empire on stolen power, but their greatest crime wasn't the theft. It was making mortals believe they needed gods at all. Nethys Varen and nobody from nowhere proved we don't. We never did. We just need each other, and sometimes the courage to call a thief to his face. So next time you're in Morrowind and see a statue of Vivec, remember the mudcrab gutter who made a god stumble. Remember that power built on lies is just an elaborate house of cards. One good breath of truth, and poof, down it tumbles. This one has told you a dangerous truth, traveler. Use it wisely, or foolishly. Rajad isn't your keeper. But remember, the powerful write history with golden ink, but the truth is written in sand, and it always outlasts the gold. Now, this old cat's throat is dry from so much talking. You wouldn't happen to have some moon sugar for the road, would you? No? Ah well, the moons light your path, traveler, and may you never meet a god in a bad mood, yes?